You're listening to Odyssey, A Tale from the Road, an audiobook by Christopher Cologne. All rights reserved. Any resemblance to persons living or dead are purely coincidental.
Chapter 36. Next, said the behemoth that was stationed at the metal detector. He could have been a twin brother of the troglodyte that had ripped my ticket stub. It was easy to identify him as a security guard, due to the fluorescent yellow shirt he wore. The word security was emblazoned in black vinyl across the back. I was off his radar, so I was safe. I avoided eye contact. Animals like this don't usually attack unless they are provoked. As long as I didn't make any sudden moves, I was safe. He reminded me of a Rottweiler. This man had no neck, and an oversized head. He went into his pre-recorded spiel, like a robot. Remove any metal objects from your pockets and hand them to me. Any weapons or drugs will be confiscated and you will be ejected from the arena. I guess this guy was infinitely smarter than his counterpart at the ticket taker line. He had memorized that long collection of words. That required some sort of higher brain function, and I was impressed. Fear struck me as I took a quick mental inventory of my pockets. I had nothing, just the ticket, some cash, and nothing else. The only piece of metal I had on me was my belt buckle. I know, for the most part, that these metal detectors are turned down in their sensitivity, and to ignore things that belt buckles. But still, I didn't want to give this guy any reason to stop and question me. Some of the other concert goers had made the unfortunate choice of wearing studded leather jackets, and unruly amounts of silver jewelry. These people needed to be stopped and searched more thoroughly, slowing down the steady flow of people. Unlike in other non-metal shows, this guard had to deal with people wearing wallet chains, studded gauntlets, and other dangerous apparel with spikes and barbs. Although this was appropriate fashion for heavy metal show, the arena had been wise enough to ban all types of metal accessories, to avoid any type of liability lawsuits from an injured concert goers. It was bad enough getting hit with the occasional flying fist in the mosh pit, but if that hand was adorned in metal jewelry, it was that much more dangerous weapon. This single-minded simpleton had one job to do, and that was not to allow contraband past his checkpoint. Just like an attack dog that shows loyalty to his master, he also enjoyed the part of his job allowed him the opportunity to turn dangerous when the moment presented itself. It was very much a job benefit, like a paid vacation or prime parking space. He would be more than happy to snap the neck of the unwitting person who happened to stumble into his line of sight, and provoke him. I didn't have any weapons or drugs on me, so I was safe. "Take off your hood," the guard demanded. I had forgotten that I was in disguise, wearing Eddie's Misfits hoodie. I had been looking through the world, through the tunnel vision, that was draped by the hood of the sweatshirt. I was like a horse, with blinders on the sides of my face. I had no peripheral vision. The hood was supposed to make me just as invisible to the people were blocked from my view. I had no need to check my periphery. I waited in line at the sheep being led to slaughter. This guard was supposed to be the butcher, whose job it was to slit my throat and feed my carcass to the conveyor belt. My skin and bones were about to be stripped from my meaty innards. "I'm not going to tell you again. Take off your hood." I tried to appeal to my executioner. "Look, it's cold. I'm sick. I beg you, please don't make me take it off. You don't want me spreading my flu." I strained an unconvincing cough. "I'll make this real simple. You either take off the hood or I'll eject you from the grounds." He didn't have to say it, but I know it was more complicated than that. Somewhere between where I was standing in my final ejection from the arena, and ass-kicking was in order. I was about to give this guy exactly what he's been waiting for all day. I was now on his radar. He smelled blood, and was preparing for a feeding frenzy, that would surely include my head being stomped against the floor with his military surplus boots. Guys like this often seem to wear those styles of boots. Security guards like this one, are usually frustrated wannabe cops, who were either too stupid or too crazy to make it through the academy. He was a dangerous bully, with a chip on his shoulder, given a bit of authority. He was the stick of dynamite and I was the lit match. It was his job to enforce compliance, with emphasis on the force. I reluctantly removed the hood and instantly regretted that decision. I saw one of Arnie's men. He wasn't in security uniform, he was in one of those unmistakable slick sharp suits that Arnie's men were known to wear. He was walking towards us, slightly distracted. He was looking over all the security guards as if he were their supervisor. Minerva had warned me that Arnie's men would be here and working as security. Governor Ellis owned the stadium, so it was no surprise that his brother, the Wales enforcers, worked as security. Surely Governor Ellis did not abide by his brother's illegal cover-up businesses, but nepotism had won Arnie's men the security contract. The governor was a good guy, but no saint. I'm sure he desperately hoped that his brother ran legitimate businesses, that weren't a front to launder money. This particular goon was given the title head of security. Arnie's men needed legitimate on-the-books jobs, to keep the IRS off their backs. I walked quickly through the metal detector in hopes that I could clear this checkpoint before Arnie's men arrived at our station. I damn near ran through the metal detector. If it beeped, I'd be dead. It didn't, and I breathed a sigh of relief. Wait, the security guard yelled for me, I still have the pat you down. Just because the metal detector didn't ring, doesn't mean that you don't have drugs. You still need to be searched. I stood there vulnerable with no hood, being held back by this beast giving me a pack of risk. I had to act normal and go through the motions. I wasn't going to give this guy the gratification of being his sacrificial lamb. He was going to have to find some other victim. I stood perfectly still as per the security guard's demands. Held up my arms all the way out my sides. It's not like I was ready for crucifixion. The security guard's ham-hock hands worked their way up and down my body, probing for contraband. Through the corner of my eye, I sneaked a quick glance at the head of security, heading our way. I tried my best to turn my body and face away from him. Out of sight, out of mind. I prayed that he didn't recognize me. Hopefully you would be too engrossed in his charade as head of security to notice me. I could almost feel him approach. It sent chills up and down my spine. I almost fainted from my anxiety. "All right, buddy," the security guard said as he finished his overly thorough pat first. I felt molested. He should have at least bought me dinner before he felt me up like that. He clapped me on the shoulder with his 100-pound hoof. "Enjoy the show," he said to me as if we were old high school buddies. 2 seconds ago this guy was going to kill me. It was in my best interest not to question his bipolar nature. I tried my best not to attract the attention of the head of security. He was standing arm's length away from me. Luckily he was distracted by the activities of the other security guards. I didn't want to leave Minerva behind, but I needed to remove myself from the scenario as soon as possible. I felt like I was abandoning my friend, like I had done to Raphael. I was a horrible person. My instinct for self-preservation had overruled my loyalty to my friend. I just barely brushed past the head of security, when I heard him holler out Minerva. He was calling out her name. I wasn't about to stick around and find out exactly how he knew her. I tried my best to keep my distance, but to stay within earshot. I didn't want my body language to indicate that I was traveling with Minerva. The frisking process had separated us away from each other. But I knew that voice, the one belonging to the head of security. It was the high-pitched, nasal voice of Arnie's man, the one that tried to kill me and my bandmates. It was the same guy that was working with the security at the Rey del Sol casino, that arrested my bandmates. The voice belonging to the same guy that killed those federal agents, one of the Whale's top men. I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. But I meandered into the crowd, keeping what I felt like was a safe distance. I was trying not to make eye contact. I hoped to the heavens that he wouldn't recognize me. I didn't want to leave Minerva behind, but standing in the open would have been suicide. He knew Minerva. How? The way he called out her name had been more than familiar. It spooked me. How could it be that one person that truly loved me could be friendly with another person that wanted me dead? I felt like I was being led into a trap, again. It wasn't impossible, but it was highly unlikely. Minerva had loved me with all her heart. She wouldn't betray me. It was that kind of thinking that has led several men to their demise. Was I next? I would soon find out. "Minerva? How are you doing? I haven't seen you in ages." "My, how you've grown," said the high-pitched, nasal voice. "Hi Paul," Minerva said reluctantly. She sounded exasperated, bothered by hearing her name called out. He knew her. Worst of all, she knew him. She knew the name of my would-be killer. His name was Paul. At least, if I died right now, I would know the name of my assassin. "What are you doing coming through this entrance?" asked Paul. "You know the guys and I would have let you in through the back. You didn't have to pay for a ticket. You wasted your money coming in this way. I'm not about to start asking you guys for favors." Minerva was making a stand. I don't want any special treatment from you guys. I've done pretty good on my own, thank you very much. Well, I'm glad you're doing so well, said Paul sarcastically, but that's no way to treat family. I almost passed out when I tried to figure out that last statement. What did he mean by family? I am not related to you. Minerva barked out, almost hurt. My tensions eased a bit. Don't you even dare say anything like that. Well, we're practically family. I've watched you grow up from a little girl to the full-fledged woman I see standing before me. You shouldn't be ashamed of your family. Family is very important. I'm not ashamed of my family. My father is a great man, who's done great things. As long as I live, I'll never be ashamed of that. Now, for my uncle, that's another story. He's a disgrace to the family name. I would never, ever, forgive him for his greed and crimes. Minerva was on the brink of crying. You shouldn't talk about the whale like that. Paul said quietly, but loud enough for me to hear. Regardless of his activities, he still loves his niece, always has. When you were growing up, he would speak fondly of you. Even his own son, Gabby, was a bit of a disappointment. But he was always proud of his niece. He knew you would make something special out of your life.
Please visit twostrangersonePodcast.net.